then I realized there's many things I'm unhappy with in crypto, so maybe I'll just talk about that.
Which maybe the side effect of that is that then our feelings don't speak at all.
Maybe think about the thing that make you feel good and not horrible about yourself. And wouldn't it be nice if we built something that made people feel less horrible? And that is like also true in crypto, right? Like we have this entire mantra of moving fast and breaking things. And it's often, I think, things we don't even understand or feel any responsibility to, like, let's say, take care of it or even acknowledge that maybe we did some wrong. We all have things to hide, I think. Like, none of us would want our entire Google search history to suddenly be on the blockchain. Does everything really have to be traded? Does everything really have to be commodified? Maybe if you need to put your friend's time on chain, you've maybe not understood the real value of friendship to begin with, and you have some hard work to do on yourself first.
This episode is sponsored by NIM, the world's most private VPN that protects your internet traffic and metadata. Unlike traditional VPNs, NIM uses a decentralized mixnet to scramble your internet data, hiding who you're talking to, when, and how often. You can switch between full mixnet mode for maximum anonymity or a faster VPN mode for everyday use. Pay in crypto or fiat, and even your payment stays anonymous thanks to ZK-powered anonymous credentials. Take back control of your online life at nim.com. Hi, everyone. You're listening to the Blockchain Socialist podcast. And this episode is happening, I think, a couple, 3-ish weeks, maybe. Time is just a hole right now for me. After Berlin Blockchain Week, which is not 1 week, but actually 2 weeks of events about the crypto world, where a bunch of projects share their updates, people meet each other in person, they have a bunch of fun. We make fun of the fact that we all work in the crypto space. And I think Berlin is quite special to me because we also held BreadCon, which is an event where we, at Bread Cooperative, we shared a bunch of our own updates, what we've been working on, and curated a bunch of talks, sessions, workshops, roundtables, and such. You can check out the after movie. Hopefully it's been published by now. We also published an article on our blog on Mirror if you want to read through it. But for this episode, I talking to Naomi Oba. She told me to not introduce her, and she can introduce herself, but the reason I asked her is because she spoke right before me at Dappcon for her talk titled Crypto Culture and Its Discontents, which was very funny and was a great lead up to the talk that I had right after. So maybe before I ruin all your jokes and funny criticisms of crypto, maybe Naomi, if you want to give your own introduction.
Yeah, no pressure on the jokes part. And yeah, I didn't know that I was the perfect lead up to your talk. I just realized afterwards, but that's how things happen sometimes. But yeah, I'm Naomi. I've been in crypto for, I think now 7 years. So I've been around a few cycles and I've seen a lot. And yeah,
I've seen a lot.
Let it sit there. And yeah, I'm a writer. I'm a creative person. And so yeah, I largely work in marketing these days at the moment for a project called SQD. And outside of that, I write for different agencies. And occasionally, I also have to ghostwrite for CEOs who can't be asked, which is always a funny experience. But yeah, so that's me. I've been around. And I mean, recently, more often had asked myself if I actually want to continue being in this space or in this industry, as people call it. And instead of just quitting, I figured, okay, I'm just going to start talking about how I feel about this entire mess and see if other people feel the same way. And that's kind of been the motivation of the talk I did at Dappcon, and also at the previous one, the one I did at East Dublin, which was more about, alienation and technology. And those are things that I've been thinking a lot about. And I feel like a lot of people in crypto don't necessarily even realize.
Yeah, definitely. Like, I think the thing that I appreciate about some of the writing and the talks that you've given, at least the one that I saw, is that you're at least bringing in a little bit of, what I say, critical theory or just theory to the space that we're working on a bit, and providing that critique that is definitely needed. So maybe what I'll do, I'll definitely leave a link to your talk since it was recorded, just like mine from Dappcon. It'll be in the description. But if you want to give a little bit of a summary of your talk, crypto culture and its discontents, and yeah, maybe pull out some of the the biggest criticisms that you had in that talk.
Yeah, I mean, the title is, of course, a nod to Sigmund Freud's Civilization and its Discontents, which is probably one of his more famous essays. If people haven't read it, I say it's like fairly accessible compared to other writings. But yeah, so I mean, this all started because I just found out like 2 weeks before Dappcon that I was actually expected to do a talk, and then I was panicking a little, and I was like, "Shit, what am I going to talk about?" And then I realized there's many things I'm unhappy with in crypto, so maybe I'll just talk about that. And since I had just recently read this essay, I figured maybe Freud is a good lens to look at it, or at least like as a starter. So yeah, that's how the title came about. And then basically, I think my main critique is that in crypto, reduce everything to numbers. And that can be the token price. It can be like how many members do we have in the community. It can be engagement count. It can be any sort of number. And by doing that, we kind of abstract away a lot of, well, maybe the mess that makes us human, but also makes us feel things for better and worse. And that maybe if we only frame success as numbers, then there is no way we could ever just stay at a certain level and still consider it a success, because there's nothing else we take into account. And I think like basically the criticism is that we are so techno-utilitarian that we don't even have the words to talk about like anything that exists outside of that, like morals or feelings or
who needs those?
All of those fuzzy things.
Yeah, I think there's definitely this obsession with quantification, in particular in the crypto space. It has, I think, of course, a lot to do with the fact that it is, for many people, probably the majority of people, it is an investment vehicle. It is something that the success of engaging with crypto is a very easily quantifiable thing of number go up, price go up. And this also, I think, feeds itself into, at least when you're working in the industry as well, a high amount of quantification, which is itself a form of abstraction and alienation towards the people that are actually working or you're interacting with. There's not like it's kind of like the numbers speak for themselves, which maybe the side effect of that is that then our feelings don't speak at all. So we don't even know what we're feeling, even though we're seeing big numbers.
Yeah, because that doesn't exist in a vacuum. It's, I think, the same with big tech, right? Like people now measure like how well they sleep. It's like, to find out how I slept, I'll have to check my app. That's a form of being alienated from yourself. Like,
yeah.
But this is pushed as something that's very aspirational.
Yeah. And then one of the things that you touched on in the talk was crypto positivism. Did you want to explain that a little bit?
Yeah, basically, I'm also studying sociology on the side. And then I came across Comte, who was the guy who came up with the term sociology in the first place. Also, with this idea of positivism, he was very obsessed with science, and he thought that eventually science would be kind of the integral function of society, or that it would kind of serve something like religion, I guess, as a glue that holds people together and gives them the basis for life and reality. And so he said that anything that is true can be measured and direct the experience, and anything else that exists outside of that isn't really a thing. And I think that's kind of the positivism aspect of it. And this is then crypto positivism. Anything that cannot be measured doesn't exist, basically. And yeah, so that was my thesis there. And I've seen it a lot. Like, whenever people in crypto say they want to grow a community, it's usually something like, yeah, we need to reach like 1 million people in the next 3 weeks. So that our investors are happy, or it looks like we're growing. And there's usually just like the numbers and maybe the how many messages are sent, but very rarely do you see any qualitative analysis. Like, are these people having real conversation, or are they just sending GM at the chat?
Maybe GM is just a quantifiable measure for having a good time.
Yeah, maybe. Or the same thing goes with coins, right? Like, everything being turned into a coin is good because then there's more coins.
Right.
Coins for the sake of. Yeah, because the only thing you can measure something is if it is like a coin, right? Anything else is, immeasurable for us.
It's interesting because it's like we're becoming the blockchain in a way by only focusing on the numbers, because numbers, I mean, a blockchain only speaks in numbers, right? we
will all live in block space.
Yeah. And one of the, I can't remember the exact quote that you put into, or the modification of the quote from the Communist Manifesto, that all that is solid turns into data points, I think is what you said.
Yeah, I think that's.
Yeah. Which is, of course, a reference, in case you don't know, to the Communist Manifesto, where supposedly Engels, though it was written by both Marx and Engels, said all that is solid melts into air, all that is holy is profaned, and man is at last compelled to face with sober senses his real conditions of life and his relations with his kind. Which my reading of the quote is sort of like where eventually they're kind of like foretelling, eventually we will realize that everything that we actually held dear has vanished in front of us because we've been alienated so much, and then we realize that, and then finally when we come to our sober senses, we see the real conditions of the world. So it's like, in that context, it is about, I think, class consciousness, or like a kind of eventual class consciousness that people would feel in that book.
Yeah. Do you think it'll happen in crypto that we have class consciousness, or no?
I mean, that's a good question. I mean, I've been back and forth on it. Sometimes I think there's something still we have not yet fully captured, I feel, in the nature of work or labor, in not just in crypto, but in tech. In the tech industry, I think, is quite difficult. As we've seen it, I think there's, of course, it's like part of the labor aristocracy. Like, if you work a nice tech job, you have a pretty good salary, why would you unionize and jeopardize that? So I think that's one thing. Also, I think there's something in particular with crypto, that so much of it is dealing with capital, that you're already you're deep inside the simulation when you're working in crypto in many ways, that even the work that you're doing or taking part in, like you don't see like bankers or investment bankers are not unionized. They're like deep within the shit. They can't like that. There's a contradiction in supporting, especially in investment banking, supporting unionization while also working at the behest of big capital. There's something similar in crypto, slightly different, but I haven't put my thumb on it yet.
Yeah. I mean, we are getting a lot of investment bankers in crypto these days, so it might be time for you to think about it more seriously.
True, they've been here for a while. No, that is true. But so then, if we're to take a step back, come to our sober senses, what do you think? Are there any better measurements or good measurements that would be what maybe crypto could aspire to, or not?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think a good start would be to take some lessons from sociology, right? Like, they are always combining quantified data with qualitative data. So it's never just one or the other, it's always both. And we don't have that at all, I think, at the moment. Like, nobody even is working. I mean, sure, the InfoFi, they were kind of working on it, but maybe it worked. But in most cases, it didn't. It just took whoever created the most noise and said they are the most relevant. And
right.
Yeah, that's of course a bit simplified. So I think that would be a good start. I think also
So were you telling everyone read Marx is what you're saying? That's what I heard.
No, I mean, I'm just saying
some humanities.
Maybe think about the thing that make you feel good and not horrible about yourself. And wouldn't it be nice if we built something that made people feel less horrible? And if so, wouldn't it be something worth measuring?
Mm-hmm.
using that as part of your criteria to say, like, I don't want people addicted to my product. I don't want them to feel a sense of like powerlessness. I actually want to empower them and to give them a place to not be like rage baited or feel FOMO as like the only two options, but something else. And maybe it's just like, oh yeah, this thing is really convenient, right? And I can now send money to my friends and family without bothering with like the banks or whatever. Or maybe this is a really useful like app where I can connect with like-minded peers. But yeah, of course, the problem is like as soon as you want to scale that, it usually erodes the initial value, at least for social networks. I think that's something we're seeing, at least with Barcaster. They're trying to improve like the QDAO, which is called quality daily active users. And well, it's not necessarily quality that they're increasing at the moment, but something is increasing, and it makes it worse for everybody who was there for the quality. And yeah.
Well, how are they measuring it?
Maybe there is.
How are they measuring? Just like the amount people post, this quality?
It's basically just like daily active.
Right.
So there's no real quality measure, I think.
Right.
And maybe that is once again how it's at odds with like they got a lot of VC investment who eventually want to see some money back. And maybe then it just doesn't work for these sort of use cases to build something that would actually take the human into account. And I mean, for me, when I got into crypto, my whole idea, maybe that was like idealized and naive, was that we could be an alternative to initially maybe finance as a starting point, but as something that stands opposed to big tech, which has very much leaned into institutification and this dopamine economy, where it doesn't matter if you're actually having a good time. It doesn't matter if it's actually a good search engine. It's as long as you keep coming back.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I think I would argue that this is definitely a natural way that kind of all of capitalism kind of works in some way. It's kind of built into the incentives of a lot of these, not in the companies themselves, but in the structures that these companies exist within, and just the logic of venture capital. I think it's always, it's a difficult thing where you want to start something. You think you have a good idea, especially in the tech world, because it involves like a high level of a disruption of what the status quo is. So sometimes it can be difficult to kind of measure, realistically what your revenue could potentially be, or market cap or whatever, or like market share. The fact that you kind of can't predict those in the start means that like you just come up with crazy ways to value what a company should and shouldn't be. And therefore you get investments based on those crazy valuations. You're testing the hypothesis over time, which is really difficult. And then you kind of just, have to find investment based on that. And eventually they're going to come knocking on your door for that return. And so you better have it soon after they knock.
Yeah, that's true. I don't know. For me, like a lot of this disruption also looks like distraction
as well. I don't know.
And that is like also true in crypto, right? Like we have this entire mantra of moving fast and breaking things. And it's often, I think, things we don't even understand or feel any responsibility to, like, let's say, take care of it or even acknowledge that maybe we did some wrong.
Never.
Because, of course, it doesn't matter because the number went up still, right?
Right. Yeah. Creative destruction of capital, deterritorialization. But I guess the one thing that kind of came to mind to me, I feel, whenever you were speaking earlier, was that it seems to me that part of the alienation problem kind of comes from this narrative of trustlessness. I think that it's kind of, you're trusting in, oftentimes like this narrative is like, you're trusting in reality, you're trusting the code, you're trusting the technology, the infrastructure underlying the screen that you're interacting with to do the transaction that you're making without you having to do anything. That this narrative also expanded into things like DAOs, and effectively the imaginary at one point were automated companies, more or less. And so I think this trustlessness of like, it's not about, I don't have to trust a human, so I don't have to care about relationships. with humans. I just have to care that when I press the button, it does the thing that I am expecting it to do, and no one's going to stop it. I feel like this part of a side effect of this thinking is alienation for sure. I don't know. That's me. That's what I think.
Yeah, I also think this trustlessness is kind of a weird thing to say, because at the end of the day, people still have to trust your product, right? Like most of the normal people will not go and understand the smart contract or the workings of the blockchain. So you're still asking people to trust. It's just like distributed trust, maybe. So yeah, it's not really trustless even.
Yeah.
Maybe I think the term trust engine is maybe more closer to what we're trying.
An academic friend of mine, Morshad Manon, and a couple of others, I can't remember who he wrote this paper with, but they called it a confidence machine rather than trustlessness, that you build confidence in the technology by using it over time, and then you trust it. That there's like levels of confidence that you build in something before trust. Something like that. I could be butchering it, but that's more or less how I understood it.
Yeah, I think there's also like a relationship between transparency and trust, right? Where I think it was Byung-Chul Han who said, if you have complete transparency, you will never have trust. Because like trust is something that happens because you don't know all the things about somebody. And it's like, usually it's like true for human relationships too. Like if you put a tracker on your girlfriend or boyfriend, it's probably because you don't trust them, and it will not help.
No, it's trustless.
I don't probably do quite the opposite.
The AirTag will tell me if they're where they are, or if they're cheating or whatever.
Yeah, sure. You should also check their payment history and everything just in case. Like, and then you will feel better. I think that is like the framing, but obviously the opposite is true.
If they have nothing to hide, why wouldn't they?
Yeah, but that is like a policy, right?
Yeah.
Like we all have things to hide, I think. Like none of us would want our entire Google search history to suddenly be on the blockchain.
No, I've never searched anything cringe.
Yeah, sure. Why don't we build like a search engine on chain then, that everybody can see?
So you're also a part of a group of writers. I don't know if that's the right word, the framing for it.
I think philosophers. The word they use.
Philosophers who wrote something called the Sapphire Punk manifesto. So Sapphire Punk is a new form of punk that we've created. It's also, if I understand correctly, a reference to post-cypherpunk, or a different name for post-cypherpunk, which I did really like. I really like this term, post-cypherpunk. I think it's, at least I kind of identified that with it a lot more than just the term cypherpunk. I think that a lot of once you go into the history of cypherpunk, I think it's a mixed bag. It's a mixed bag of things that, like, some, at least for me personally, it was like some things I agree with, other things I'm like, no, not really into that. But I think there is still a kind of, the cypherpunks were prescient, at least in their criticisms about privacy on the internet. But anyways, would you like to tell us more about what Sapphire Punk is, and why is it also post-cypherpunk? The puns are making it difficult for my mouth to like sapphire, cipher.
There's anything punk. I saw there's even a magazine that's called Golf Punk. You go to the airport shop in Hamburg Airport. But yeah,
Golf,
so anything
golf,
can
the
be.
sport, like the
golf. Yes,
okay.
There's a golf.
Very punk. Yes, golf is very punk.
Yeah, I mean, it's like seems like a weird combination. But yeah, post-cypherpunk, well, I mean, I think it was a few months ago, or maybe longer. But anyway, I got in touch with Anne, who's also one of the few humanities people in crypto, I would say, Anne Brody. And we started talking, and she was talking about her problems with cypherpunk. And we quickly realized that, well, we shared a lot of the same sentiment and criticism, and in part experience, having worked in crypto for so long. And yeah, often talking against the wall. The second you have something that's not backed up by numbers or just like some moral concerns about doing a certain thing. So yeah, and so she suggested, like, why don't we write a manifesto? It was something like that. And then you tell yourself, sure, why not? Because when else would I do that in my life?
Everyone has to publish a manifesto in their life at least once.
An interesting arc, yes. So yeah, then we started just with, accumulating our notes. And I went through my personal notes, like, that I've been taking from different sources, different books, and it all started to come together. And yeah, eventually we roped more people into the effort because it turned out we are not the only ones who felt like cypherpunk had made it come to a bit of a dead end. And if we want more people to see us in a more sympathetic light, maybe we need something else, some evolution of that, and not a sheer destruction, but something that thinks forward that what cypherpunk has started and maybe adjusts it to the time we're in. And so that's why it was called post-cypherpunk, because it's kind of like modernism, right? Postmodernism. So yeah, it's like thinking forward, but still building on top of it, because of course this was there and it'll always hold relevance, I think, at least a little bit in the crypto industry. And so, yeah, it was post-cypherpunk for the longest time until Wasim suggested that maybe it makes more sense that instead of just saying we're post something and framing ourselves as in opposition or against the cypherpunk thing, I will use something entirely new. And that's how Sapphire Punk came to be. But I do agree that probably if you say post-cypherpunk, there's way more associations for people with it, which make it maybe more accessible at first. But yeah, the idea with Sapphire Punk was also because when we started writing this thing, there was a lot of like, I think we were all a bit angry inside and frustrated and depressed with the state of the industry. So you could see a lot of like, reject this sucks, stuff like that in there. And so we tried to put like a more constructivist spin on it. And then, yeah, that's, I think, also kind of was signified by this change to calling it Sapphire Punk instead. Yeah.
Yes. Do you? So I mean, well, one thing I wanted to comment on when I was reading through it, I could definitely tell. I could see I can always recognize Wasim's puns. So Wasim has been on the podcast at least a couple of times. Like if you read through the manifesto itself, you will be delighted by the amount of puns throughout the manifesto. So it is a fun read. For example, to each according to their nodes.
Yeah. I don't know if most people will recognize the reference, though, I think, in crypto.
But if they do recognize it, then they're a good one. That's what I'd say. But yeah, I guess, would you want to talk a bit about maybe if we start from the beginning, what are the things, well, I mean, maybe just for people who don't know a little bit more, if you want to explain what is cypherpunk a little bit, and what are some of your criticisms or discomforts with it?
Well, I think Wasim did the really great talk about it a little later in that day, which I was there. And he started with actually even just like a cypherpunk's manifesto, right? That's like the title it had. And this already says that this is for an individual. So it's like about you, and it always has been. And you have to protect yourself because the world is dangerous out there and everybody is out trying to get you. And well, that was probably, to a degree, pretty fair in those early days where privacy wasn't really a thing. But yeah, I think this kind of thread goes through the entire thing. It's very individualistic. And the way it frames certain things, like privacy, for example, we just didn't agree with, because privacy, as you also allude to, that it is maybe more than just an individual affair. I can protect my privacy, sure, but if somebody else leaks my chat history, it means nothing in the bigger scheme of things. And yeah, of course, also like this cypherpunks can come across to a degree, maybe a bit aggressive. And also it doesn't help that it was mostly like the weird nerds, I guess. If you want like mass appeal, people who strike you as the anarchist weird uncle might not be the best. But yeah, I think a big part of it is also like rooted in shame. Basically, if you don't live up to this, like, shame on you, right? And we have to hide ourselves from each other because otherwise we might reveal. Yes.
Yeah, definitely. I can't remember who wrote the Cypherpunk manifesto, or whether it was like Anon, or was it
I'm not sure.
Is it different than there's what's it called? There's a Cyber Independence Manifesto, I think it was years ago.
Yes.
Was that the same as the Cypherpunk one?
I don't think so.
The Declaration of Independence of Cyberspace.
A separate one.
Yeah, I think they're two separate ones, but they kind of have the same vein of quite extreme individualism. So a lot of the people who were involved in the like cypherpunk mailing lists were definitely people who were economic libertarians, like conservative economic libertarians. They were people who would have been gold bugs otherwise, probably. But instead, they were computer nerds, math nerds, interested in cryptography. And due to the position that they were in, I think there were some things that they were able to see before others, but it's just the framing in which they tried to go at the problem of surveillance. Is a very individualistic one, which also feels kind of short-sighted, especially in the context of today, like 20, 30 years later, where we do have a bunch of issues with privacy, but a lot of those issues with privacy don't have to do with like ones that cannot be solved by simply protecting oneself and being like trying to be anonymous oneself all the time, but that there are collective practices, I don't know if that's the right word, or techniques, technologies that require a collectivity in order to make privacy work. So it kind of contradicts the manifesto a little bit, I think.
Yeah, I think there was also this great book called Privacy is Power. And she argues that maybe we don't even have the moral ground to do things such as selling our own data, right? Because much of our own data is not even just ours. I think the best example is always DNA. I remember like everybody for a while was doing 23andMe.
Oh, yeah.
And nobody was thinking about it at all.
Oh, yeah.
But, okay, this is also your parents' DNA. And a big part, if you ever have kids, it's theirs. But yeah, this was never part of the conversation. I think this could have happened in crypto, but thankfully we haven't attracted any. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Such a big desire. If we did, who knows? Maybe everybody's DNA will be on chain so we can monetize it.
Well, you can at least probably buy other people's DNA reports on the darknet.
I mean, you can also buy the iris scan.
Oh yeah, true. Yeah, I did have I did give my parents, sweet as they are, tried to gift me a DNA like 23andMe thing, and I was like, no, I don't want to do it. But then like I think my brother ended up doing it, and like they just gave it to him and then he did it. It was like, well, does it even matter that I didn't do it or not? There's one of those hard things where I didn't want to be the super ungrateful son for trying to give a gift.
Should have asked for a different gift.
Well, yeah, didn't ask for a gift.
Yeah. I mean, that's. I think another aspect that still people hold very high in crypto is decentralization. And I think like if you've been long enough in crypto, you realize that most of the time decentralization, for the sake of it, it just means the power shifts to somebody else. I think like everybody who's been in DAOs has seen this very viscerally, where suddenly whoever has the most capital holds the power. So there's no really decentralization. Yeah. So that's maybe another thing where we were, well, I mean, decentralization is great, but it's like, it doesn't do much if all you do is shift the power to somebody else who's then going to be the one using it as they desire. And yeah, I think the idea is always that technology is like credibly neutral. And that's probably one of those things we do not agree with. And yeah, so that all of these things, they went into this manifesto. And well, who knows what happens with it. If it gives people who feel the same way a place to go, I think that's a good start. The
cypherpunk influence is definitely, it exists in crypto as it exists right now and kind of its negative side effects, I think, are there. Part of it, I think, is that the original cypherpunk vision was also based on a kind of market supremacism. It was like, I think this thread that you were pulling on in your talk at Dappcon about this obsession with numbers and quantification and alienation is a manifestation of a kind of market supremacism, which requires like price finding and like the engaging in the battle of the market in some way, the competition of the market, to offer services in the hopes that this competition produces the best for everyone. I think there is like a lot of reason to say that that is not what happens in reality. Like that's something that good in theory, bad in practice, but a lot of people still try to believe that. But yeah, I guess I don't know if you would make the same connection, but yeah, how do you think that what do you propose for some sort of alternative to market supremacism?
That's a good question. Maybe
big one.
First thing, yeah.
Solve the world's problems right now. 5 minutes.
Yeah, it's just like now, 30 seconds. I think like maybe a good place to start would just be asking ourselves what are things that should maybe not be decided by markets? And having that discussion in the first place. Does everything really have to be traded? Does everything really have to be commodified? And I mean, of course, we live in a world where that is the norm, right? To a degree, we are all commodified ourselves, and we are like willing participants in our own, turning ourselves into that, because of course we are all on social media selling ourselves, but this is like most of the things, it's framed as empowerment. It's like liberation, right? You're now free to sell your nudes online. That's like a great achievement. Yeah, so I think like maybe that's like probably also crypto, of course, doesn't exist outside of the rest of a culture in big tech. But maybe because we are so niche, we could start trying things differently, right? And saying like, okay, maybe certain things should not be. Maybe we find other ways to decide if something's valuable or not. And maybe if you need to put your friend's time on chain, you've maybe not understood the real value of friendship to begin with. And you have some hard work to do on yourself first.
I think if you have not tokenized your friends, you're not real friends. Personally.
Yeah, no, I mean, sure. If you have not at least 15 selfies with yourself and then one friend, like, is it even a friend? Like, does he even exist?
Probably not. I mean, yeah, if you don't own my personal token, my friend token, then you're not my friend. That's how you can buy it though on Uniswap though.
Yeah, sure. So everybody can it's like permissionless friendship.
Exactly. Yes. Free market friendship.
Free market friends.
Yeah.
Like in theory, friendship comes with a sort of commitment, right? And it's a voluntary commitment, but it's still like sometimes you're going to put up with some big inconvenience for your friends, right? Mm-hmm. That's not something you will do if it's just a joke.
But I think so. I think that is a poignant question to be asking oneself, which it sounds simple, but in the context of the crypto world where 90% of things that are being proposed are some sort of like imposition of markets on top of something that either doesn't have market or has a market anyways, but it's inefficient or something like that. Stopping and being like, what do we have that does not need a market, and going backwards from there maybe, and then being more intentional about where markets should or should not be. I've been thinking this like the other day. I think it would be really cool because I think one of the blind spots that a lot of people in crypto have is they think of everything as a market. It's kind of like market or business ontology. I think this is, not to get too far into the weeds, but I think this is a big part of capitalist realism, or this idea that people lack the ability to imagine something else besides capitalism, but they can very easily imagine apocalypse. It's that you're constantly surrounded by things that remind you of the market. I mean, you go to work, you're commodifying your labor, you are paying rents, you are paying for food, like you buy commodities. Like 99% of things that you use are something that you bought from a store, some commodity, oftentimes. And so like I've been thinking maybe we should start reminding ourselves what are the things that we're interacting with that aren't a market. We're not, in reality, and most people at least, I'm not buying my friends for the most part on the markets. I'm not commodifying my friends. Maybe one or two of them, but no, not really.
Only the ones I don't like as much.
And I was thinking the other day, I was like, driving, I was in the there, and I was thinking how like traffic lights are a great example of a very non-market interaction that we have in the world all the time, because we're not buying and selling the rights to cross the intersection, right? We're like,
not yet.
It's not, but someone has proposed a crypto scheme. I mean, that is effectively what, like, you could argue what like block building is. It's a payments to use to cross the intersection.
To use the public infrastructure you already paid for with your tax money.
Yeah. I mean, there are toll roads, I guess. That's one manifestation of that. But for the most part, traffic lights are very non-market based. It's completely planned. It's a planned economy of allowing cars to pass through or not. So I've been thinking maybe it would be a good idea to like just collect these different interactions that are not market based, so that people can be reminded of the non-market interactions that they engage in and enjoy and love, so that we will stop turning everything into a market in crypto.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's also inherent in the way that everybody is just a wallet, right? Then every interaction is just a transaction. And I think like Simmel was writing about this, about money already like 150 years ago, that basically then, everything is abstracted, and maybe we abstract ourselves from anything meaningful as well in the process. And of course, it's true. We all just live in spaces that constantly remind us that there's markets, like even on social media, right? Which started as like a place to connect. There's always advertising all over the place. Mm-hmm. So it's kind of like, that you're never really free from.
Yeah. Or sponsored content. Or
sponsored content, true. And I mean, in crypto especially, people are so addicted to their phones. I don't know, do they ever really see anything outside of the platforms where there's also ads? Who knows? But maybe if you are so focused on the one thing, you don't even have the eyes to see, right? What's there, because there's, I think, a lot of things that are not transactions, a lot of things you can experience just sitting outside somewhere. But that requires like stepping back and stepping out. And I think one thing we have adopted from hustle culture is definitely this chronically online life, this obsession with constantly being productive, or at least seeming to be, which maybe robs us of the space and silence we would need to realize that most of the work we're doing doesn't actually do anything on a bigger scale. We get so hooked into like the small incremental changes.
Right.
Yeah. And then of course we don't have the time to reflect like, okay, maybe me buying all this shit on Amazon just because I can't wait for one day to get my whatever isn't great. Maybe there's something more behind that. Maybe it's a similar thing we do in crypto where everything has to be instant gratification.
Yeah. The one thing that ICOs and tokens have done is allowed for VCs the instant gratification of exit liquidity.
Yeah. That's true. Good for them. It's also allowed us the instant gratification of losing our life savings.
Very gratifying.
Okay, and maybe if you lost your life savings, you can log off, you can just like...
That is freedom, losing all your...
I mean, I think that's another problem, what is sold as freedom is often more like freedom from, right? Like it's always freedom from taxes, freedom from obligations, from any sort of duties, from any bonds to other people too, I think. Now with this AI agent hype, I feel like people jumped willingly on it because they didn't even think about what their product was going to do for humans. So now they have an easy way out. Just going to say, okay, we are catering to AI agents. It doesn't matter what you think about it.
Easy pivot to AI. Everyone just pivot.
Everybody just build something for agents instead.
Yeah.
So they can talk to each other.
Maybe a market for AI agent friends. I think
I'm sure that already exists. And that is a very weird thing that I remember I've seen pitch decks for like the loneliness epidemic is a huge market opportunity. And then here's our AI companion. And of course, it's like a subscription model. So you will always have to continue paying to talk to your companion.
Yeah.
But yeah. Weird times.
Yeah. Fun. Yeah. It's a point that hopefully people will realize kind of the insanity of the amount of commodification that's being pushed by the tech sector. So one point in your manifesto I also wanted to get at is that you stated privacy is not a bunker, it's a commons. So I thought that was a really interesting point, and I was curious to hear from you how you thought of privacy as a commons.
Well, I think because privacy is the thing, like as we already touched upon, right, that allows us to actually have relationships with each other, like meaningful relationships, like not the ones that are parasocial, where you know everything about the other person because they shared everything online.
No, everyone who's listening to this podcast is my real friend.
Yeah, sure. If you want to delude yourself, you might. It's like free for all to do that. But yeah, so privacy is something I think that we all have a bit of a duty to also uphold, not just for ourselves, but for others, because it is relational, right? It's not just something that you do for yourself. It's something that I think enables the functioning of democracies and societies. And therefore, we all should feel some sort of duty about maintaining it. And this is, of course, like, it's really easy for somebody who finds something out about somebody else and then, I guess, use this market thing and just sell off the information to the highest bidder. But maybe there's like reasons outside of markets that would make it morally very questionable. And yeah, maybe that's the conversations we need to have more. What are we not willing to sacrifice to the market? And what is worth maintaining, even if it comes at a little cost to ourselves? Like the little more effort we have to make, the little inconvenience we have to put up, which at the end of the day, if my privacy protected is, well, ours, right? Then it's our privacy. If all of us, we take care of it. So yeah, I think that's kind of the idea of privacy being the commons. It's not a bunker where you go and lock yourself and never interact with anybody else. Although, I mean, maybe that is, if you take this self-sovereignty to the extreme, this could be what you do, right? You go live out into the woods, you have your own nuclear reactor, and you only talk to your AI girlfriend, which is a locally hosted model, because you don't want anybody to interfere. And you have your own satellite, of course. I mean, you're not going to put it with like a subscription to Elon. You'll have your own. So yeah, then you're like super private, but you're also very lonely. And I think there's a good phrase in the manifesto too about the more secure the enclave, the lonelier the architect. And I think this is very much, part of this, why we think privacy is a commons and not just something to lock yourself off.
I think those are good points. Yeah, there's it's almost akin to maybe thinking of like gossip as a commons in some way or something like that.
I mean, to a certain degree, I think gossip is, it's fun. And as long as you're not too vicious about it.
Right. Yeah,
I think the problem is like with gossip now online, it can get pretty bad really fast.
Of course, yeah.
There's like often like a mob with Wi-Fi, right? Just like, livelihoods and lives have been destroyed thanks to people having too much internet access and free time.
Yeah,
and hate.
Turn it off. Just turn it off for a little bit. So for me, one of my last questions, I'm just curious to hear from you if there are any, what's next for Cypherpunk, and is there a place for, if you want to share like your plugs where people can check out your work and what you do?
My plugs. Well, I mean, what's next for us, at least? We put this manifesto out, but this is like a work in progress, I would say. So there'll be more edits, and we are also gonna start talking about it in public a little bit more. So we will start hosting a Twitter space, see how that goes. It's also funny that, all these years in crypto, we haven't managed to build an alternative to Twitter. We are so dependent on it. But yeah, so that's why we're going to use that one, because that's where everybody's at. So I think those are the things that are next, and then we will see. I think each of us anyway carries these ideas into the conversations they have. And if it turns into a movement, great. If not, also cool. I think the main point for us is that, I don't know, sometimes when you read something and you feel really seen and like reassured that you're not crazy and not alone with this, that's like already enough, right? So yeah, I think that's also another part of it, because still we are not completely disillusioned with crypto and haven't rage quit. So we're trying to carve out a corner for people like us, I think. So yeah, and apart from that, if people want to read from me, that's I'm on Paragraph at Crypto Now. So that's where I write occasionally. It's not always about crypto. Sometimes it is. And yeah, of course, on Twitter, on Farcaster. Those are the places people can find me. Yeah.
Cool. Yeah, no, I really appreciate the writing that you guys did and the manifesto and providing an alternative ideology almost of compared to cypherpunk, while trying to take things that are interesting or good about it, but rearranging it in a way that is, I think, more fitting for the current times that we are living in. So yeah, I really appreciate you coming on, Naomi. And I will see you.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
I will see you in the metaverse.
Oh, hopefully not. I'm never going there.
All right. Catch you later. Thanks.
Bye-bye.